Good evening, welcome to the stream this evening, and we will carry on with some of this pyrography. Carry on with one of those, with this portrait. So I was doing some of the clothing, so I shall carry on with that. I am trying here to use the same colour, or create the same colour. And quite clearly, I guess, my angle was off on this, but it doesn't really matter. I can just correct it. Since these are supposed to be roughly parallel. Trenta, good evening and welcome to the studio this evening. Welcome to the weekend. It's Friday night. So I'm just working on a portrait. And I'm doing some of the easy bits first. Actually, I did the very hardest bits first, which was the two eyes, but then the rest was easy. From my point of view. Either this pen needs cleaning or I've got something embedded in the wood somewhere. Probably just a crystal of some kind. But I keep feeling it's scratch. You are perfectly right. It probably will be the hardest part. I'm not good at hair. Obviously, I've got to practice it, but that is going to be the challenge. The underpainting of the hair and then getting the hair strands on top. And Coyote Dancer, good evening and welcome to the studio this evening. I was wondering if anything has arrived yet. Not sure whether there's been enough time, but I think there has. True. Well, largely speaking, sort of the holiday backlog would have gone by now, and it would be back to normal. But hopefully soon. Thank you very much for that, Coyote Dancer. Serious snowstorms over there. Okay. I don't think we've had anything particular. Well, certainly in Yorkshire here in the UK, we've not had anything that I know of that has been particularly serious snow-wise. We've had plenty of rain and flooding in various places, but not snow just yet. To be, well, I was going to say lucky. I'm not sure which I'd rather have, but well, I wouldn't really like to have serious anything storms, but when you're inside, snow's pretty. When you're outside, that's a different matter. Ooh, you awkward thing. Piece of wood there that just took a colour rather faster than its neighbours. Okay. Sounds like it would get quite bad weather. I will, yeah, freely admit my knowledge of where things are in the States is about as good as I know where things are in the UK, actually, which is not very good at all. Yes, the Wasatch Mountain Range. Lady Sarah went, Yes, I will I'll take a look at Google Maps. But I shall, in the States, yes. I can't remember. I shall take a look after the stream. That way I can see some of the pictures as well, because I'm sure it will show pictures. It's odd because generally speaking I don't have too bad a sense of direction, but I tend not to know where things are. It's more a case of places I go, I know where they are, and how to get to them, and I can get to them from all sorts of places. It's places that I've not heard of, that I don't know where they are, and that sounds obvious, doesn't it? If you don't know where something is, if you've never heard of something, you can't know where it is. But if I've never been to somewhere, then I might have heard of it, but I still don't have a great deal of idea where something is. Oh. I keep forgetting one of the challenges with this style of pyrographic pen is when it's not on the wood, it heats up. Doesn't store a lot of heat, but it stores enough. And when you touch it down on wood, you can get darker marks than you intend. because of that. And it's something you have to remember. And it's not a problem to me at the moment because mostly this pen is on the wood, and that sort of keeps the temperature regulated. If I take it off and leave it for 10 seconds like this, it's now heating up, and I've got to be careful when I put it down. Heathrow Airport once. So was I once, and I actually now know where it is, having driven past it enough times. But otherwise they'd have said it's in London. Well, yeah, it's in London. If you describe London as being about sort of 60-70 miles across, but saying Heathrow is in London is a bit like saying I live in a town or a city, and it's a bit like saying it's in the next nearest city to me. It's that far apart. But yeah, Heathrow. Drive past it on the world's largest orbital car park. Thank you very much for that, wood burning. Well, it looks a little bit well, they always do, don't they? Because they're kind of meant to be. These sorts of things often look better when you stand back a little bit, and I kind of like it stood back a little bit. But there again, I do with a lot of the things that I do. I describe them as sort of 10 feet art. If you step back 10 feet so you see the whole thing in one go, then they look good. If you come and look at the very tiny details, I'm not as good at real close-ups, but thank you. You've been a slacker. Well, so have I actually. I haven't done any. Well, this is the first sort of pyrography I've done in a couple of months, and I could tell as soon as I started how out of practice I was. And I mean, even doing this outline, I know the outline. I know it looks black on the camera. It's a dark brown. It didn't actually go as black as I wanted it to. I probably need a different pen actually, but to do this large an area. But even doing that was quite difficult, relatively speaking, just because I hadn't done it for a long time. And now I've got to put this pen down on here without. So I'll cheat. I'll do it on that area there, because if that goes black, it's not a problem. And now I have to stay relatively parallel to the line I've just done. Doesn't have to be perfect, which is a good job because it's not, but it could be reasonably parallel in its stripes on clothing, so they would normally be parallel to each other. Obviously stuff that you're wearing sort of twists a little bit, etc., so it's not doesn't have to be perfect, but it's got to be close. Yeah, I'm also procrastinating a little bit. I'm avoiding doing the face and hair. Super Speedy, good evening, and hello to you. So if I do the clothing first, then I can avoid doing the armpits. Can't avoid it too long, but I did the eyes first because of course you get those wrong, you might as well forget the rest. But yeah, I should really just get on and do the face and hair, but this kind of feels like I'm actually accomplishing something, and that way then I might actually want to do the rest. By which I don't mean I don't want to do it. It's just I recognise that it's going to be a little bit of a challenge, and I'm just not ready to start. Yes, Coyote Dancer is the simple answer to that one. which of course makes it all the more harder. Two down, a few more to do. About now, and I'm looking at this going, I've got at least another 2 lines to do on top of this, and I start to get impatient and turn the heat up, and then that's when it would go wrong. And so I resist the temptation. Just because if I turn the heat up, I've got less control. Really, it's I've got to work faster to keep the colours light, and ultimately it often takes longer. Turning the heat up to speed it up takes longer because you then have to move the pen faster, which means you apply less colour in one pass, so you end up doing more passes even though they're faster. It takes longer all over. Overall, swap words around and they make more sense. I was thinking what I will have to do for things like black backgrounds like that is get one of the soldering iron style handsets, because they have a larger heat capacity and generally speaking a more powerful heater. Therefore I'll get better colour and better colour fairly faster as well. This particular pyrograph machine is okay for getting, for going hot enough to get dark wood like that fairly rapidly, but it's quite hard work with it. It's not really designed to create large areas of black colour. At least not with these particular pens. Yeah, and the 2 stripes. What I should do here as well is apply a light coat of colour just between these stripes. Rarely, well, I rarely like to leave wood uncoloured. Largely speaking, that tends to throw the other colours off or make them look odd, because the wood stays sort of white compared with the pyrographed area, which has a brown hue to it, even if you've done it very lightly. And so the uncoloured areas have a tendency to look really white, which sort of makes things sort of stand out too much. So almost always I will apply, even in areas that are meant to be white, I'll apply pyrography, a light colour, so that it looks white without looking like a brilliant sort of fluorescent white. But I may well just leave that until later on. Two, three, four, five. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so this one would be. Just making sure I've got the same number of stripes at both sides. Not that anybody probably would count, but if I didn't, I'd count, or somebody else probably would and notice it. Mind you, that's not to say the clothing couldn't have different numbers of stripes on both sides, but it actually isn't that often. It would be kind of like one of those designer type touches, but they just don't do that sort of thing. And these stripes are not necessarily at their final colour either. I may go over them again, I may not, but it's establishing them first. It's giving everything a rough colour and establishing tones. So just relative tones. This area here, which of course is the neck, is darker than these stripes. Not a lot darker, but it is darker, so I need to have a reference, to reference it. I need to have something here. If it turns out to be not dark enough, I will darken it down, but then because of that reference, the stripes would probably need to go darker as well. It's a bit of a juggling act, a balancing act sometimes, and from time to time you will go over and change the relationship between the different colours. So now you get the perennial problem with portraits, and that is, how accurate do you do a portrait? And that's the interesting question. It's always the interesting question. How accurate do you do portraits? Now that's getting scratched a little bit. Never wanted to do portraits. I kind of always wanted to. I like the idea of portraits. I actually like the idea of just pyrographing, painting, drawing, anything actually. But yeah, they're tough because you think they're tough. Or that's my personal opinion, if you like. Yeah, because you think they're going to be hard. You look at it and you think, how on earth do I do? But if you break a portrait down into shapes, and all you do is do shapes, then it becomes a lot easier, because you're not seeing it as a person, or you're not seeing it as a portrait. You're seeing it as a blob of this or a square of that, and that actually makes it a lot easier to do. It's still not easy. Even drawing a square isn't easy, but it's when you take away the concept of it being a person and just break it down into those colour shapes, it changes things. Yeah, shapes and values. So when you sort of close it, I mean, that's one advantage, I guess, of being able to work close, is that it's you see more shapes than anything else. So it was something I learnt from airbrushing, because that's probably the first time I ever needed to do that. Break something down into shapes, and there's shapes on top of shapes on top of shapes, and that way you can you can get there a lot easier. I suppose it's perhaps the way they teach sort of canvas type painting with those heavy things, because it's underpainting. You do the large blocks of colour, and then you add more on top to which is just blocks and shapes, and then you add more, and so you eventually get the detail that you're after. And then you look at it and go, but that's a portrait. And it's hard. But then yes, do you cheat and make somebody look good, or do you do it accurately, or yeah. Indeed. I mean, I kind of never thought of that. When I'm drawing on the computer, I quite often will flip things left, right, or upside down, actually, because it gives you that different perspective. Never actually specifically thought of doing something actually upside down to sort of just throw your mind off. And an interesting concept. I mean, even if I'm doing this and I'm turning it around, I'm not actually doing it upside down. I'm just, moving the thing around to suit the pen arc. But yeah, Some of these lines may be a bit too light for you to see on camera, but they're visible to me, and I will be darkening and shading and pushing them around a bit as I go, but it's going semi-realistic, shall we say, I think is what I've decided to do. It's reasonably smoothed out. When you're drawing a pyrographing skin, you've kind of got slight advantage because skin of course isn't a perfect colouring, so you can get away with some, but it is reasonably flat colouring, reasonably consistent colouring, so you can't get away with much, but you can get away with a little bit. Now, one of the interesting things about pyrograph is that the colour isn't not exactly permanent. I mean, you can sand it off, but it's more like it's a bit like a glaze which you can remelt, spread around a little bit. So it can actually help with shading. Just to push some of the colour around a little bit, which just spreads it out and helps to smooth out transitions. Now, one of the interesting things that I frequently find with pyrography, when I'm doing it myself, is that things are darker than you actually think. Even if you take a colour, trying to interpret a colour picture as in value, which is grayscale, light to dark, it can be quite difficult, and even converting it to a grayscale image, it's still really hard to see sometimes two shades that are the same as each other that are not next to each other. And so sometimes one of the tricks with that you can use is to effectively get two large pieces of paper with a hole in the middle, so you can lay them on a photograph and just isolate sections, so you can see two sections, and all you see is that colour through the hole that you've created, and gives you a better idea. So you could take something like, put something on the background here, put something down here on the neck, just a little on the photograph, and go, you know what, they actually look the same. And yet you wouldn't think that this was as dark as that. And I've just made that up, but that's one of those things that is often surprising when you're doing this sort of thing, is that you have an expectation that this is going to be a lot lighter than the background, and it may not be. One thing that I often end up doing when I've done whatever image it is, I'll go so far and then find out actually I can't achieve the variation that I wanted because I need something to be darker. So I'll go back over the image and darken things, because everything's always relative one thing to another. It's not necessarily the absolute value that matters, it's this one's darker than that bit that's next to it, which is lighter than that bit there but darker than that and halfway between that one. And it's getting those relative things right. And if you get the relative colours right, you don't have to get the absolute ones right. It's a bit of an odd thing, and sometimes that ends up with Pyrograph or with other things as well. Any sort of black and white image that you do is you will end up sort of going, actually I need that bit a bit brighter when you're working, let's say, with paint. So you'll light because you work dark to light. Here you work light to dark. So I'd be going, actually I need that bit a bit darker. So you'll just darken that bit down and go, but that means that bit neat, and you end up, going all around the picture, probably going over it 2 or 3 times and just tweaking areas. Like I'm putting in a light colour here. I know it needs to be darker than this, but it'll do for now. And I have to remember pen control. Sounds like an old song, does that? Pen control. But it's basically 2 different techniques. One is don't let the pen stop, and the second one is don't let the pen stop. So when I put it down, it's moving before I put it down, and it's still moving when I lift it off. That's the main one. That way you avoid the blobs at the start and the end, which is the difficult thing about pyrography, and one thing that beginners often have a problem with. And the other one is literally concentrating on what I'm doing. Lift the pen off the wood before I stop, if I'm stopping like to talk now. Now this is a skin. Actually, it's slightly, just in this position, it's slightly lighter than this stripe here, which is clothing. I'm going to put more detail on that clothing. We'll get the drawing pen nib, and I'll actually put some detail on it before it's finished, but I'm not doing that just yet. we'll do here is turn it up and be naughty and do just a little bit of detail. Shouldn't really be doing detail at this point. You really should establish the whole image before doing detail, but I kind of find sometimes it just helps me to do something interesting, because sometimes large blocks of colour get, I won't say boring, but it gets kind of repetitive, and sometimes you just need something to help you see that you're making progress with the image as a whole. And even though large blocks of colour is doing that, it's nice just to do a fiddly bit here and there. You know, of course, I could fool you a lot into thinking I'm doing something upside down just by flipping the camera view. Hey, I'm painting upside down. Yeah, right. One of the things that happens when you're doing, I find when I'm doing black and white work, monochrome work, pyrography is one I was doing when I did airbrushing as well. Not so much the scraper board, but it does happen, is you kind of get, I won't say colour blind, you lose, because you're concentrating so much on a small area, you basically start to lose the ability to see the colour. You sort of just, almost as though somebody's erased it, you sort of can't see the edge that's there. It's quite a plain edge to me, but as I was studying it closely and I'm working on it, I almost lose that. I just can't see it, which is another reason. It's your eyes become tired or so accustomed to something that you don't see it anymore, and that's one reason why artists, electronic artists at least, flip canvases while they're working, because you become immune to what you see. Now again, many digital artists of course have the advantage of Control Z or Shift Control Z, depending on your application. That's my Control Z. I'm not a very good one at that. Actually, it's not really a good idea to try and erase. If you have to, you have to. But if you've applied pyrography and then you take sandpaper to it, you don't always necessarily get back a whiteboard. Here, you know, this black background would be cool. I'd have to do a lot of sanding to get rid of it. You can shift shade a little bit, but one of the things you have to be a little bit careful of is it also changes the surface texture. And what you can then get is, if you apply pyrography over the top, it doesn't look the same. It sort of quite clearly stands out as an area that has a different wood texture. Even if you sanded it in line with the grain and done all the things you should do when you're sanding, it still has that sort of effect sometimes, and you end up not hiding what you were trying to hide in the first place, and sometimes it's better just to sort of try and fix it in some other way. Yeah, it's slightly lighter there. You ought to maybe broadcast some of your pyrography coyote dancer. That may be one way of getting you back into doing it. It's amazing how small bits just start to change an image. As I'm doing this bit down here, it's starting to come together as a picture. I'm looking at it on the output, but it's the same view that you're seeing there. I don't quite see it as much when I look here, but when I look up there, it oh, special lady. I've got as a complete change of subject, just because I've seen it, I've got a Valentine's bracelet version of that. So whilst I'm procrastinating over doing a little bit more of that, I just thought I've just seen that image. It just reminded me. I just thought let's put this one out on stream. So, special lady, which you saw a moment, which is 3 strands. This is just a single strand of crystals. But now then. Who, I was going to say, who wouldn't like to receive that as a Valentine's gift? Probably me. I wouldn't probably wear something like this, but you know what I mean. Look at that, lovely sparkly red. I learnt them the hard way as well, Coyote Dancer. Literally, it's all of this is stuff there. I've made the mistake and had to fix it, or learn how to do it. And a lot of what I do with the pyrography, I've kind of repurposing what I did with airbrushing. They are surprisingly similar in a lot of the techniques. Like that one of not stopping, touching down, lifting off, which I'm sure you're familiar with. You do exactly the same. Well, you do a similar thing with airbrushing. You turn the air on. You start the paint flow just before you get to where you're going, and you tailor it off, and so it's paint on, paint off. And it's a similar sort of idea as lifting the pyrographic tool. That's heat on and heat off whilst it's moving. And as soon as the first time I tried pyrography, if you like, and I got that blob, I knew why. And it was and so I learned that was an easy learn, but it was hard learn originally with the airbrush, and that is a hard learn. It's amazing as well. I mean, I think I've talked to some people who are, artists with pencils and pens, and they've said things like, don't like the idea of pyrography because it's permanent. You can't sketch with it like you can with a pencil. You can do things with a pencil and you don't like it, well, you can, erase it. Okay, I can erase to some extent, but you can't sketch with a pipe. That's kind of what I'm doing here. I'm just sketching. It's very light, and of course artists using pencils will do really light lines that they'll then go over and over, and then maybe make it a bit darker, or they'll just tweak it slightly. You can do exactly the same thing here, and that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm just sketching over and over on the same or similar line just to get the line of the mark that I want. And when I've got something that I like, I'll darken it slightly. Just like pencil artists, and it's the same idea. And one of the things I can do, which pencil artists can't do, is I can draw with no marks at all. Well, that's not strictly true, but I can draw without applying any colour, because with either fast enough or cool enough tip, you almost just iron the surface, so that the surface becomes slightly glossy because it's slightly smoother. There's no actual colour there. It's just slightly more shiny, and so you can draw a line. You can sort of look and go, and you can adjust it, and play about with it, because you're not applying any colour. You're literally not changing the colour. You are just flattening the fibres on the top, which makes it slightly shiny. So I do have the advantage over artists. I can draw with using a pencil that's got no pencil in it. Now, all of what I'm doing here is to go a different shade, and there's some smoothing to be done on it. But I'm just feeling my way into this. As I mentioned, it's been a while since I've done pyrography, and it's even longer since I've done a portrait. So. Now, as I started to do this, as you can see, this here, which is an actual wood colour, which actually is nowhere near white, as you're looking at it now, looks really white, and it actually looks on screen to be a lot whiter than it actually is in practice, and that's just the relative colour throwing your eyes out. If you start to compare it against the desk, for example, you start to see it's actually not as bright as you first thought it was. For anybody that's watching and kind of doesn't understand pyrography, the heat of the tool is what's making the surface change colour, and it's a process by which its quantity of heat rather than how hot the tool is. That matters, but it is literally a time dependent thing. So you can get wood to go really dark using a cool tool held in place for a long time, or a hot tool held in place for a shorter time. If you did the calculation, you find that they both have the same quantity of heat, just they're applied in different ways. And that's one of the interesting things about pyrography, is learning to balance that, and learning your preferred style. I prefer working with cooler tools, applying them for longer. That's just my preferred style, but other people work the other way. Neither's right, neither's wrong, and sometimes one's better than the other in certain circumstances. One of those circumstances being how impatient you're feeling, and how good you are at controlling the quantity of heat. Also, how confident you are in what you're doing. Which, of course, I guess is one of the definitions of skill. Yes. Well, the surface is. It's a plywood. It's a thin plywood, and it's birch faced, AAA quality birch on both sides of this one. I have some poplar, which I want to try as well, because that's a slightly whiter wood, and I kind of would like to try. I guess you'd know it as basswood, but it's not particularly cheap in the UK, and I'd like to try it with a fairly thick block, and a fairly thick block is good for carving, and I do that as well. So not quite sure I want to sort of take a carving blank and do an image on it, but it looks to colour extremely nicely. Tell you what might interest you is we've just had some trees cut down, and one of the things I got the people doing it was to cut me some slices through the trunk. So I've got nice round inch thick wood blanks, which I'm going to have to let dry out for an awfully long time and then plane and sand, but they should be nice. Yeah, not tried any. Actually, what I might do, because I have a cube actually, which isn't necessarily good to carve much on. It'd be a hand carving thing with that rather than a chisel carving, which is what I tend to do, and relief carve. But you could do some nice 6 images on there. Would be interesting. Pyrography on the end grain might be a challenge, but might try something like that. But it's relatively pricey wood in the UK, despite the fact its alternative name is European lime. But I don't think we grow as much of it as you do. Because I do notice a lot of it is used in the States, not only for pyrography but also carving, of course, for which it's a lovely wood to carve. Mind you, I have also done pyrography on pine. Carve them. I've thought of doing that actually. I mean, have you seen Ruth the Dragon? I did think about putting some pyrography on that, but I have a tendency to personally like the look of just the carved wood on its own, because of course it oxidizes and takes on that lovely sort of slightly golden colour. And it almost seems to apply heat to it. But there again, you could paint it as carvings you can paint. So it's a different kind of painting, I guess. Mind you, I've never painted I was about to say I've never painted a carving. That's not true, because I did do a relief carve of a rose on ash. And the stream did persuade me to paint it, and it looks quite reasonable. So it didn't put me off doing it again. Yeah, this area is darker.